All right, we're back on the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith. I am coming to you live. This is a little bit of a sideshow that we have going on this evening, talking about, again, the coaching carousel. Uh, I just want to preface this. I'm going to give my opinion on what has been what has transpired in the last couple of days, uh, and um, I just can't get behind what we have going on in college football. Not that I agree, disagree. It really is what it is. Um, Hold on one second. I am retweeting this to get some folks in here. I know we are going to have the main show tonight. Um, that's also in the works. Appreciate everybody who has tuned in, but we're going to talk about Hugh Freeze and Luke Fickell on this little iteration of this little sideshow thing that I've been doing and looking at revisionist history. I think it's going to be fascinating looking at this as a whole. I find it very interesting on how this whole thing is going to play out. Um, I think that some people think that it's just going to be an easy fix to fix this problem. I don't think so. I don't think that it's as simple as what people think. And also, we are going to open the phone lines tonight as well. That is also in the cards. We're going to have the phone lines open for both shows, but also, I don't do this enough. Can you do me the biggest favor and hit the like and subscribe button if you are a fan of this podcast? And leave in the comments if you like when I do these little, I wouldn't call them rants, but just my little assessment, if you guys like that or not. It gives me feedback and it helps me a ton. So as we get into digging into the minutia of what we have here, I think that at some point something has got to give when it comes to the Hugh Freeze front. I think that it's interesting, to say the least, that where we are, where we're at, I think looking at just the history just at Auburn, Jordan won there. He won big back in the 70s. And then it goes to Barfield. He was dismissed after the 1980 season with a 29-25 record and won. Pat Dye wins big there. He resigned as well. I think that where we're going, I think Auburn is trending in a very interesting place. Bowden resigned, and then Tuberville resigned. Chiswick dismissed. Malzahn dismissed. Harsin dismissed. Basically, everybody that gets to Auburn, they either resign or get fired, whether that's on their own volition or not. I find it very fascinating that it comes to a head like this. I think that it's interesting, to say the least, that it's gotten this bad and it's came this far, basically with the with everything that's happened with Freeze going on. Jackson Arnold hasn't played great this year. I think it's interesting that it's kind of ran itself aground. It's hit, I wouldn't say rock bottom. Hugh Freeze's comment the other day was, it would sure help to get a vote of confidence. I mean, you can do what you want with that comment, but I don't think that that is conducive for behavior. I think that they are probably bracing for what is to come. They got, how do I want to say this? They have the Hogs coming to town. I'm sorry, I'm looking for some stuff and trying to get my stuff pulled up. I'm a little ill prepared, but we're getting there. I think that, with Freeze not being removed yet, is interesting, to say the least. I think that with him being there, they think that they overpromised and underdelivered when it came to the Freeze stuff. I think that they've held him to the standard of the legendary standard that is the standard, I guess, at Auburn. Gene Chizik was 33-19 and fired, dismissed, whatever you want to call it, after Tuberville. Tommy probably should have won a national championship at Auburn. To be 100% real, he probably should have won. He got jobbed out of it, but that was the BCS era. That's just kind of what it was back then. I mean, for all intents and purposes, when it comes to the college football thing, it's very interesting. But do I think Freeze will be able to navigate out of this? I don't think so. I think for the most part, I think he's a kind of a dead man walking, to say the least. Because as I'm looking at it, I don't think that it's. I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's going to get much better. And I mean, the fans are kind of they're out. They're all the way out. And you have people tweeting now that Hugh Freeze is out at the end of the season. He said in his press conference the other day that if he would get a vote of confidence, it would be huge. The fact that he said that at his press conference, I think, is a very, very telling sign that it's over. I think it's for all intents and purposes, it's over at Auburn for Hugh Freeze. I don't know how he navigates out of this. I think the action that he said that is just bizarre beyond belief. I think everything that's going on at Auburn right now is bizarre. I mean, they're unlike Florida, they are spending money hand over fist. I guess now, on a side note, Bill Belichick's kicking guys off the team, so we'll see how that's going to work out. But I'm looking at it and I'm trying to get all of this stuff pulled up real quick for everybody, so it's rapid fire. But we'll just look at the end of the schedule, what Hugh Freeze has left. I believe they have Arkansas coming to town. But if you look at the revisionist history here for the last 50 years, they've had coaches that have won, just not at the level of the expectation. And I get it, those guys in Tuscaloosa with that coach named Saban, they won big, and they won big for a long time. And it's not a good feeling, and I don't think the expectation matches the reality of what the situation is there at Auburn. Brian Harsin came in. It was, for all intents and purposes, it was a train wreck. He is, outside of the interim, he's the only coach in the last 50 years to have a losing record outside of Freeze. I'm pretty sure Freeze's record is a losing one as it sits currently. I will get that pulled up. And there was a lot to be made about the golf. And so Hugh Freeze and Brian Harsin, you've had back-to-back coaches sitting with a current losing record. Freeze is 14-18 overall. So that's not good. What do I think that they'll do? I think that they're going to make him coach the rest of the year. And I think he's just going to have to take his medicine and do it. He's going to have to buck up, because he's got Arkansas coming to town, and Petrino's been hanging a lot of points, and they've been losing real small. Arkansas put 42 on Texas A&M. Although I will have to say, Mike Oko being a defensive guy, they've given up 40 points in 1-2 games this year. They gave up 41 points to Notre Dame, and they gave up 42 points to Arkansas. So, but Freeze, for the last part of the year, Freeze has Arkansas at noon. He's got Kentucky at home. And will Diego Pavia deliver the death blow to Hugh Freeze? Because realistically, at this point, that would be 7 losses in a row. And can the fan base withhold that? Because if he loses to Arkansas, I would, if to just try to save it. I mean, if he spits the bit against Arkansas, do you let him coach against Kentucky? That's the big thing. Now, if he goes out there and wins, beats Arkansas, beats Kentucky, beats Vandy, that puts him one game under 500 going into the Iron Bowl. I guess my burning question is does Hugh Freeze see the Iron Bowl? I say no. Also, the phone lines are open. If you want to call, get your call in. The number to call is 260-255-4069 is the number to call. I figured I would leave that open. I would leave that open as well. But if you want to call, get your call in. Because when you look at this, if he loses to Arkansas, loses to Kentucky, and gets maybe blown out by Vanderbilt, I'm just going to tell you right now, Vandy, I think, is a playoff team. I think Vanderbilt can make the playoffs if they win out. I think if Vandy wins out, hell, you might even see him in Atlanta. That's something to be said. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But if he drops 3 in a row, that's 7 losses in a row. To the season, and they're all SEC games. He beats Baylor, beats Ball State, beats South Alabama, L on the road. And I know you can split the hairs. Oh, wow. I'm seeing on Auburn Sports, the On3 site, they're clamoring now for Bobby Petrino. I don't know if I would want to go down that road, but time is also a flat circle when it comes to coaching. That is pretty much a fact. I am dealing with that myself, but also phone lines are open. The number is at the bottom on the ticker. Number to call, 260-255-4069. If Hugh Freeze, I think they pull the plug whenever he loses to Arkansas. If he loses to Arkansas, I think they pull the plug there, and you just punt the rest of the season and hope you can retain the roster and get into a coaching search. Because what it is, you have Florida looking for a coach. You have 8 openings right now. I would say South Carolina is looking for a coach. I don't think that this is salvageable, and I don't think the Auburn fan base is going to sit on their hands. I don't think they're going to sit on their hands, and I don't think he's coming in next season at all. I don't think he survives this one, in my opinion. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't think he survives this season at all, because I think he's done after Kentucky, to be honest. And that would be a fitting end that Diego Pavia would deliver the death blow to Hugh Freeze, to be honest. I think that would be a fascinating storyline. And then you end it with Mercer and Alabama. The way Alabama's rolling right now, I wouldn't be shocked if they win the national championship, to be honest. But there's four teams in the league that don't have a win. That's Mississippi State, that's Arkansas, that's Auburn, and Kentucky. Well, Hugh Freeze plays 2 winless teams in the league that do not have a win. The way I'm looking at this, being skeptical hippo that I am, I'm just saying that they pull the plug after Arkansas. It's going to be noon, and especially if the Hog fans show up, which Bobby Petrino kind of has given them a reason to show up. it builds Petrino's case if he wins this game. It really does build Petrino's case to try to retain the head job over there at Fayetteville, but I don't know what they're going to do over there. I think that's going to be fascinating. Florida's all in on Lane Kiffin, and I wouldn't be shocked if Auburn tries to make another run at Lane Kiffin. So you're going to have Lane Kiffin linked to probably 2 or 3 jobs. The Penn State people are doing Jimmy Sexton's bidding as well because they are linking Lane Kiffin to Penn State. So Jimmy Sexton is going to have a very, very Merry Christmas if I was to bet on anything. Sexton's going to have a very Merry Christmas. So I think that's coming down the pipe. But, you know, for all intents and purposes, everybody at Auburn the last 50 years has either quit or resigned outside of hold on, let me get that pulled up. They've either quit or resigned outside of Jordan, and yeah, Jordan's the only one. Everybody else has been fired, so there's that. I think Hugh Freeze is on the way to being on the scrap heap of being fired. If I had to put money on it, because I just don't see how he digs out of it. Now, if he won out, I still don't think, even if he wins out, if he wins the last 5 games, I still don't think they keep him. And also the Auburn people, if you are hoping your John Gruden is going to be the savior, I'm just telling you, that is going to be a very, very rough transition on the Gruden stuff. I'm just telling you now, because all of the skeletons in the closet in his lawsuit and some of the things he has said are going to get brought up from the past. But hell, I didn't think Auburn was going to, but they hired Hugh Freeze, so there's that. I'm just looking at things, and they're spending money. They're spending money in NIL. They had 2 decent recruiting classes, so that's where I think it's at. I don't think that can Hugh pick himself up off the mat and get the team rolling in the right direction. It ain't looking like it's going to happen. I'm just saying, Jackson Arnold and I'm not trying to denigrate the kid. He's thrown 5 touchdowns this year. That's it. He's thrown 5 touchdowns. And I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think that everything that's going on around the program, it's very toxic. The majority of the fans want him gone. And they don't want him gone tomorrow. They want him gone today. And today isn't quick enough. And I would say the big money people are probably going to get together and say, sorry, Hugh, it's over. That's what I think is coming. They've been absolutely horrendous on offense. It's not looked good at all on offense. They're struggling to score points. Jackson Arnold, out of the SEC quarterbacks, he's got as many touchdown passes as Lenoris Sellers, but South Carolina is not somebody that you want to hold yourself to as well. So there's that. Ty Simpson leading the SEC in touchdown passes. Taylon Green, Marcel Reed, Diego Pavia, Joey Aguilar, Arch. And it's wild to me that's where this has came to. Arnold isn't turning the ball over. He's just getting sacked a lot. So I think that at a certain point something has to give in this situation. I'm not seeing a way out. I think it's over. It's done. I will tell the media people that if you think James Franklin is going to be your savior, I think it'll be fascinating to see James Franklin down at Auburn. I think that he might be able to do something different. That's just kind of where I'm at on it. So there is that. Also, phone lines are open. And then we're going to move on to Luke Fickell in Wisconsin. But that's kind of the synopsis I have on the Hugh Freeze thing. I say they pull the plug after Arkansas, but they could make him eat it and coach the rest of the year. So there is that. But the number to call is 260-255-4069. And it's nothing personal. Really, it's not personal. It's just the product is not matching the productivity. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. I think that at a certain extent, you're going to see. I mean, it was already hostile after Missouri. I don't know where else you can go from there, but it was. I read Twitter, and it was not a pleasant place. I think for the most part, Hugh's goose is cooked. I will just say that. I don't foresee it getting any better. I think it's just going to get worse. And what they're doing as far as keeping him in place, keeping him there, it's just going to do nothing but piss people off, to be 100% honest. They're going to be even more out than what they are now. What I think will happen is that even if he makes it, even if he beats Arkansas, I could see the stadium being half empty for Kentucky. I think that's a realistic option, because some people will just say, they're not going anywhere. Why would I go? I could most definitely see that happening, but there's that. If you can do me a big favor, hit the like and subscribe button. But on to Wisconsin. Wisconsin, the last 50 years, it hasn't been great. They hit it out of the park with a couple of guys in Barry Alvarez and Brett Bielema. Gary Anderson skipped town after Bielema left, and then Paul Chryst came in, and Paul Chryst took over in 2015 with a record of 67-26. That wasn't good enough for Wisconsin, so we decided we're going to hire Luke Fickell. And at the time, the hiring of Luke Fickell was not a bad idea, because he had, I think, 11 or 12 win seasons at Cincinnati. It was rolling, but that was also before rev share. And I think the majority of the Big Ten programs, I think Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State took the rev share thing seriously in the beginning. Ohio State fumbled the bag a bit, but that was to be what it was. They didn't do what they needed to, so it kind of fizzled out on them. But I don't think Wisconsin has taken revenue sharing seriously. And then the athletic director comes out and basically says, well, we gotta figure this out. Well, obviously, because you're killing your program, you're handcuffing your coach, to say the least. It's not oh, the Giants released their kicker. Imagine that. That's shocking. But that's kind of where it has spun into. But if you look at what it is, Wisconsin is staring 2-10 in the face. They are at Wisconsin. They are doing the athletic director is going to increase program finances. Where's this quote? It says the athletic director, Coach Fickell, sees the potential in what this team can be, as do I. He shares the same disappointment and frustration as our student athletes continue to stand and fight with character and pride as they battle through this moment of adversity. They deserve all of our support. And Wisconsin goes on a whole bunch of blah, 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 blah. But essentially, it comes down to if they want to fire Fickell, it would cost them $25 million, and they rank 132nd nationally in scoring is where Wisconsin ranks. So outside of Brett Bielema and Barry Alvarez, what was the reasoning behind firing Paul Chryst? Because I don't think Paul Chryst would have done anything better than what Fickell has with the resources he's gotten. If you're not giving him any money for NIL, he's not going to be successful. Where do I think the bottom falls out on this? This is Fickell's end of the year. He's got to go to Oregon. He has Washington coming to town. Got to go to Indiana. He has Illinois. And I guarantee you Brett Bielema's going to have him up and ready to roll there. And then you got to go to the fighting PJ Flex. You got to go to Minnesota to end it. There's no clear path. That is a gauntlet. And then you just played Alabama, Maryland. Maryland's kind of got it rolling. Mike Locksley, I mean, he dropped a bad one against UCLA. They had that thing won, but UCLA is hot right now. And where I'm at on this is after Maryland, they went Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota. So I'm struggling to see where there's going to be a win at in that, because that's why the game's on FS1 for Wisconsin, Oregon. They're just going to be like, hey, we're going to slide our chips in. Hopefully a bunch of West Coast people watch Oregon bludgeon Wisconsin, because that's what it's going to be. Wisconsin this year, outside of Middle Tennessee State and outside of Miami of Ohio, all of their games that they played against G5 opponents, the most points they scored was against Alabama, and that was 14. So 2 touchdowns. That's it. So it leads me to believe, what in the hell And also when it comes down to this, the Phil Longo experiment didn't work. TVD got hurt. That is what it is. Luke Fickell is sitting at 13-13 at Wisconsin right now, and he's staring at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more losses. So he's going to be 18-13. That would be the worst record since Don Morton in 1989, which was 6-27. That's the good, and then that's the guy that Barry Alvarez replaced. So it hasn't been this bad since 1989 for Wisconsin, and I know that's a proud program up there. They've won Rose Bowls. So that's kind of where you're sitting at the moment. Also, the phone lines are open. Number to call, 260-255-4069 if you want to get your call in. I would say Wisconsin people are probably frustrated. There was a picture that they showed after jump around at the Ohio State game. You could have thrown a football 50 yards in either direction and not hit a person at Wisconsin, at Camp Randall, where that place used to be packed, juiced, everything. It used to be everything any college football fan ever wanted. And it's not anymore. Gary Anderson did a decent job, but he probably felt the heat and said, I'm getting the hell out of here. Paul Chryst probably thought, hey, I'm doing all right. I'm 67-26. Nope, not good enough. See you later. And I use this example on the Billy Napier thing. Just when you think you're going to get things better, it bottoms out. It truly bottoms out. It's bottomed out horrendously in Wisconsin, in my opinion. Shut out. I think 89 was the last time, or 88 or 89 was the last time Wisconsin had been shut out in back-to-back games. And I wouldn't be shocked if they don't get shut out against Oregon. I get it. Fickell's had quarterback issues. They've lost Q's due to injury. They've lost quarterbacks due to transfer. It's, for all intents and purposes, you lost Graham Mertz when you fired Paul Chryst. And Graham Mertz didn't even start, and he got drafted. So an NFL team, which, can't really give the NFL decision makers a whole bunch of credit on some aspects, but I just look at this and I think, well, what in the hell are you going to do? You've got to raise a bunch of money. You got to find it somewhere in order to go buy players in this rev share era. And you mean to tell me that Vandy and the University of Indiana, and I'm not bagging on Indiana like some people do, but you mean to tell me Indiana can get to the number 2 team in the country in 2 years by hiring a coach from James Madison, and you hire the hottest thing that was out there in Luke Fickell, and you're 13-13, Cignetti? I'm just not buying that the University of Indiana is raising more football money to acquire players than the University of Wisconsin. And I think people that don't pay attention to how some things go, this is what it is now. Some people don't like the fact that kids get paid. Well, I'm just here to tell you it's not going anywhere, and this is what it is. So either raise money or deal with what you have. I think that's what it is. Do I think Wisconsin, if they move on from Fickell, do they want to pay $25 million? Well, they got to do something. They have to do something. Also, at the 40-minute mark, the phone lines are open. Number to call, 260-255-4069. If you want to call, get your call in. We're talking Hugh Freeze. We're talking Luke Fickell. We're talking Auburn, and we're talking Wisconsin. Wisconsin, the Big Ten has 6 teams that do not have a Big Ten win. Wisconsin is definitely moving on from Fickell and has been a total disaster. I don't disagree with you. It has been. It's been an abject failure. He's 13-13. And he's gotten bludgeoned by Alabama twice. Losses to Maryland, Michigan, Iowa, and Ohio State. You're playing 3 of the top teams in the Big Ten. And it hasn't worked at all. I mean, Fickell's first year, he beat. I mean, at least they went to a bowl game. But if you just go back, and I would say the majority of that was Paul Chryst guys or some guys he brought with him from Cincinnati. But if you just look at last year, Western Michigan win, South Dakota win, 42-10 Alabama, 38-21 USC. He beats Purdue, but Ryan Walters and the Purdue program were an abject corpse by that time. He beats Rutgers. Yay, Rutgers. You beat Northwestern. Kudos, man. Kudos to you on that. And then here comes the formidable teams in the Big Ten. Lost to Penn State. Lost to Iowa. They had Oregon on the ropes at home at the end of last year. And then you lose to Nebraska. You got blown out by Nebraska. You lost to Minnesota again. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 in a row. Lost your last 5 Big Ten games. And then starting Big Ten play this year, you lost 1, 2, 3, 4. So you've lost 9 Big Ten conference games in a row at this point. And you're staring at 5 more losses. So you could be 0-15 in your last 15 conference games if you're Luke Fickell. Their best bet is maybe they have a blizzard and they can somehow eke out one against Indiana. But if you move on from Fickell, are you calling Bielema? Hey, Brett. That's my question. I don't think that calling Brett is out of the realm of possibility. But also, you have to remember, does Kirk Ferentz hang it up at Iowa? Does Brett go back to Iowa? Does he feel like Iowa has more of an investment in the program? I don't think it was smart that the AD comes out and says, well, we're going to push to financially support this program. Although Fickell did get that 1-year weird extension, but what they're doing in the NIL space isn't working. It's not working at all. It is a failure for all intents and purposes. It's not jiving. It ain't going. There's no motion. So Fickell could lose 15 Big Ten games in a row, and they're going to retain him because they probably don't want to pay him the money. I don't know where this is going to fall out. I really don't. I'm going to pull up Fickell's contract language and see what that says. And see what it's got on the buyout, because that's the only thing that is probably going to stand in your way. But so in 2022, when Fickell was hired, he signed a 7-year deal in November of 2022. That contract was extended in February in 2025 through 31-32 season. His salary in 24 was about $7.7 million. If fired without cause, Wisconsin would owe Luke Fickell 80% of the remaining contractual compensation under the original deal, or a fixed liquidated damages, whichever is greater. As of December 1, the estimated buyout was $40.1 million. These are just projections, but it gives a schedule of how the buyout drops if he remains coach. After 2025, it's 25.4, 26, it's 19.2, 27, it's 12.8, and then drops to 6.4 after 28, 29, and remains at 6.4 through 2030, and then 2031, it's 0. So he's got a pretty good agent. And then here's the contingency. If he finds another coaching job from being fired, the income from that job would likely offset the amount Wisconsin owes him in common coaching contracts. Because the buyout is so large, it drops over time, often cited as a major reason why the school would be reluctant to terminate the contract early. So, realistically, if Wisconsin were to fire Luke Fickell at the end of the 2025 season, it would cost the school around $25 million, give or take. By many estimates, if they waited another year or two, the cost drops significantly. So I think Wisconsin fans, I think you're getting Luke Fickell for next year. I don't know if they're going to pony up and buy him out. I don't think they're going to. I think that they're going to try to raise as much NIL as they can and try to get this to where they can get out of it, in my opinion. That's where I'm at on this. I don't think Wisconsin moves on at the end of the year. I think they're going to use the extension with we didn't raise money. I really do think that. I think that's what they're going to sell to the fan base. And on the fan base's end of it, you're better off. I'm not going to tell anybody what to do with their money, but I guarantee you, on top of it, if you're a Big Ten football fan and your team ain't winning and you're playing at noon every freaking weekend, you have a 2-hour drive, you're probably not going to go. That's just my opinion. Also, we'll leave the phone lines open for 12 more minutes. If you want to get your call in, get it in now. The number to call is 260-255-4069. And also, if anybody doesn't think that the rev share era is real, Indiana and Vanderbilt are top 10 teams. You mean to tell me in Indiana, the losingest program of all time throughout all of college football, can figure out how to maintain and develop players with a guy that was a group of 5 coach? That's what you're telling me. And Wisconsin can't do that? And they can't raise money? You mean to tell me Indiana is out fundraising you in order to acquire players? But also, Nick Saban did say it best on College Game Day. If you pay the wrong guys, you're shit out of luck. That's what it is. And I think Wisconsin, you have a $25 million decision to make. I mean, Penn State made a interesting deal out of this. Penn State kicked this whole thing off, as my buddy Tyler Siskey said. Penn State made a decision. They made a decision that I was just reading something else there. But Penn State made a decision to kick off probably the biggest coaching carousel in all of college football for the end of time, because that's really what Penn State did. Penn State opened this whole can of worms, and I think it's off-putting. I think it's hilarious that they're trying to link Kiffin to their job. I think that also in this coaching carousel as well, people can agree to disagree on this with me. This has started something major in college football. I think Florida fans are going to get their feelings hurt, and I think Auburn fans are going to get their feelings hurt, because if you move on from Hugh Freeze, who you hiring? Because at a certain extent, if you're John Summerall, why would you go? Everybody there is either resigned or gotten fired. Same thing with Florida. Why would you go there? Everybody that's been there is either resigned or got fired. I'm just saying, Florida's fired their last 4. That's not counting Urban Meyer. And you can believe the heart thing if you want to. I'm not buying it with the dollar. Some people may say that's horrendous and it's whatever, but the guy takes the year off and ends up at Ohio State. I mean, kudos to him. He found a way out of Florida. But I think they were going to fire him. And for all intents and purposes, Florida and Wisconsin are pretty much the same thing. They've only had 2 guys there ever win big, and they don't have any natties, I don't think, in the last 50 years. Been to some Rose Bowls. But you have to look at this and say, what is my expectation for the University of Wisconsin? I think it's fascinating. Indiana, for all intents and purposes, is out fundraising you. They're out recruiting you. They're out doing everything better than you. The University of Indiana. And don't let Barry Odom get Purdue rolling either, because that is also another fascinating thing. I think that you could end up with a Purdue that was on the how do I want to say this? The verge of nothing, and they end up surpassing you. How does that make sense? That's all I'm saying. How in this rev share world, how does that make sense? Purdue and Indiana pass Wisconsin by in the fast lane. I mean, isn't that just a fascinating deal? I think if I was somebody that was on this, I think, or not on the beat, but I would be real worried, because in this rev share era, with all the vacancies, who's coming to save you? That's all I'm wanting to know. Because some people don't think it's a fair question if you're going to fire the coach. Let's just say you fire Fickell. Who you hiring? Who's on your short list? Who are you going to get? Give me 5 names. Because for all intents and purposes, Chris Ash could get a head coaching job if Notre Dame's defense pans out. Don't know where he would go, but if you fire Fickell, Fickell could probably be the defensive coordinator at Indiana. Or not at Indiana, but at Notre Dame. Scott Wise here. Indiana will be the new top state for college football in the next few years. Indiana, Purdue, calling it. Well, they got to keep Purdue's biggest problem is that they haven't been able to hang on to their good coaches. They've all gone somewhere else. But I will tell you, I think if Barry Odom gets Purdue rolling, he gets them rolling, Barry Odom's probably going to get a crack at an SEC job. But I think that Purdue deal is a long rebuild. Unless Wisconsin's going to play the long game with Fickell. But I think that seat is boiling hot in Wisconsin. And they don't know what to do, because if I'm Fickell, I'm looking at them and saying, hey, you get what you pay for. If you don't pay for anything, that's what you get. So there is that also. I think that at a certain point, you got to look in the mirror. And I think a lot of these college administrators don't want to do that. They do not want to look in the mirror. They do not want to take any responsibility. They just want to fire the guy when it doesn't work out. Well, at some point, somebody's going to have to start hiring or holding these athletic directors to some sort of standard. I mean, Scott Strickland's looking at hiring his third football coach in his tenure. At some point, you have to hold these people accountable. And then also, if you when I look at this, I think a lot of administrators are reading social media. And years ago, they never read social media like they do now. They're reading it, and that's what it is. Some people will say it is what it is. They shouldn't read social media. But at a certain extent, if you have an empty stadium, that's not good for business either, because you got to come up with $20.5 million for revenue sharing. And you need stadiums full. You need excitement. You need a lot of things now in college football. But you just can't say you're going to die on a hill and, go through the motions anymore. It's not a 5-year rebuild. It's 2 at max. And if you're not showing signs of growth or proof of concept, it's done. You got to move on. And also, these agents have figured out that they're dealing with athletic directors that don't understand how contracts work, because they get into contract negotiation. The coach has all the leverage if you're going to hire him. He really does. The coaches have all the leverage when you go to hire them, because you're taking them from somebody else 9 times out of 10. Because you hardly see promoting within. If a coach is fired, they normally clean the whole staff out, which 9 times out of 10 now in the Big Ten, that's $20 million to clean the whole staff out. But I guess we'll see where this thing hits, where rubber meets the road. But if he loses out, I wouldn't be shocked if Wisconsin makes a move, because if they're staring at an empty stadium at the end of the year, that ain't good for the balance sheet. And I hate to be the guy that says it's all about money, but as the great Neil McCready quotes Andy Kennedy says, money won't buy happiness, but broke won't buy shit. And that's a true statement. So if I'm a Wisconsin fan, I would have a lot of questions, to be honest. I would have a ton of questions about this. It's to the point now to where you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube at all. You got a $20 million bill that you didn't have before, and you got to figure out how to pay for that. Whether you got to sell foam fingers, whether you got to start selling something. You got to start making revenue. And empty stadiums don't do that, especially 15 Big Ten losses in a row that you're staring at right now. I mean, some people will say that's a drastic knee jerk. I don't think so. And I know these shows have been getting views that I've been doing about the coaching carousel, but you got to ask yourself realistically, what is the expectation at Wisconsin? Because you're not Ohio State, you're not Michigan. You have to ask yourself, what is the expectation? That's all I'm saying. What is the expectation? Where do you think this program can go? But my thing is that it's going to be a long, hard road, or it's going to be a long off season up there in Wisconsin at Camp Randall if he loses out. I'm just saying. I'm just telling you now. The fans, boosters, nobody's going to be happy with this. But also, I will say this about Wisconsin, and I'll say this about Auburn, I'll say this about Florida. Can't really say it too much about Penn State. Penn State's been throwing the cheese around, and that is what it is. They made the decision, and they kicked this whole damn thing off. So, but with Wisconsin, Auburn, and Florida, I don't think you should be looking at the coaches because you hired him. You are in charge of raising the money. I think these athletic directors that are having programs that are not living up to expectations, I think that they need to start looking in the mirror, looking within, do some soul searching, do something, because what you're doing, it ain't working. So there is that. We went an hour. Richie's going to join me tonight at the 7:30 show. Appreciate everybody who tuned in to watch tonight. If you can do us the biggest favor, hit the like and subscribe button. That helps this channel grow, helps us more than anything. So appreciate everybody who's tuned in, even if you stayed for a little bit, if you come back to watch it. I appreciate you, and we will talk to you later.